There's nothing worse than getting your clips into post-production and realizing you basically just recreated the Blair Witch Project. Those clips are shaky and basically unusable. Let's set you up for success with some camera stabilization options. Hey, I'm Jen and I help photographers with all aspects of videography so that they can confidently add video to their services. In this video, I'll show you what I use as a family filmmaker to stabilize my footage. Before I show you the tools, let's talk about two things: frame rate and lens choice. We'll start with lens choice. Because you're a photographer, you know that longer lenses, meaning 85 millimeters and above, require a more steady hand or else you risk a blurry photo as a result of camera shake. The same goes for video. The wider the lens, the less small camera movements will show versus a longer lens, which any and all movement is going to be emphasized. That can lead to an uncomfortable viewing experience. Another thing to consider is the frame rate that you're going to choose. Camera shake at 24 or 30 frames per second is going to be more noticeable than a 60 frame per second clip, which you are going to slow down in post, and that might be stretched across several frames. That movement is going to be less noticeable, a little bit more fluid, a little bit more magical and ethereal feeling. If you're not sure what I'm talking about with frame rate, refer to my video on frames per second. So let's get into tools for stabilization. First, a tripod. As a photographer, you're probably very familiar with tripods. They help stabilize your camera, especially when you're using those longer lenses, from having shaky hands. If you're not using a tripod and you do have a longer lens and you have shaky hands, that's going to show up in your clips and it's going to make it very uneasy for your audience to watch the said clips. To incorporate smooth movements when using a tripod, let's say if you want to pan or tilt, you might want to invest in a video-specific tripod. These typically have fluid or ball heads, which are meant to help with fluid, smooth moves. You absolutely can use a photography-specific tripod for video. However, I recommend using these for when you have a subject that is staying in one place, let's say a speaker at a podium. Moving cameras on tripods can be a little bit clunky, as you know. But the tripod allows the videographer to step away while the camera does its job. Next, let's talk about monopods. You may or may not have used a monopod in photography. They're not as popular for still photographers as they are for video. It is exactly how it sounds. It's like a tripod, but it only has one leg. This allows the videographer to move the camera and the monopod to a new location easier than it would be with a tripod. Monopods typically also utilize those fluid or ball heads. However, it does require the videographer to stay with the monopod on the camera at all times, versus a tripod where the videographer can walk away and the camera will still do its job. A gimbal is a pivoted support system that allows a camera to rotate smoothly about a single axis. Gimbals are commonly used to capture stable footage while moving, such as when you're walking, running, or filming from a moving vehicle. Mechanical gimbals use counterweights and gravity to balance the camera on its frame, while a motorized gimbal uses an electric motor to offset the camera's motion. Both have quite the learning curve and require the filmmakers to practice in order to get good at it. I can tell you this from personal experience. I don't love using mechanical gimbals, however, I do have a motorized one, and even though the motor does a lot of the work, you still have to take the time to put your camera on there and balance it perfectly, and it doesn't freak out in the middle of your shot. Like literally, the motorized gimbals will start shaking and doing weird movements if you don't balance it correctly in the middle of your shoot. You do not want that happening in front of clients. It's embarrassing. Using your camera strap is the most accessible way to stabilize your camera. And since you likely already have a strap on your camera, it is zero extra cost for you. To do so, wear your strap like a sling and hold the camera out in front of you, creating 3 points of contact. You may need to adjust your strap so it's a comfortable length. This does require a bit of practice to perfect it. However, since you likely have a camera strap already on your camera, you can begin to practice immediately. I personally use my camera strap when I'm filming families because it is the easiest, most accessible way for me to film families without having to set up tripods, monopods, sliders right in their living room. I go into families' homes and I don't want to be carrying all this extra gear that might take away from the moment by distracting my clients. I've done a lot of practice hand holding and I'm comfortable with it. So I know that when I go into post-processing, I'm not gonna be upset with my footage being shaky. This would be a great time to tell you I have an entire video on using your camera's strap to stabilize your video, including demonstrations. I'll link it down in the description, and while you're there, go ahead and like this video and comment telling me what color your favorite strap is, because why not? Of course, there are other options for stabilization that I personally don't use as a family filmmaker, and these include a dolly or a slider. This is a big contraption tool that you mount your camera to that will allow you to have smooth gliding shots. There's a crane or a jib, which can be helpful for shots that need to go higher than a tripod if you're trying to get a bird's eye view of something, or if you want to film something directly overhead. Filmmakers that are maybe making documentaries or full-length feature films, or short films for that matter. There are also vests which you can wear, which have an apparatus coming out of it, which you mount your camera to. You can then move your body to then create the camera movements that you'd like. I personally do not use these. It's just more equipment to buy and store, and it's more than likely just going to cause a distraction for the parents and especially the kids. Be sure to head to the description and grab my free stabilization checklist, complete with links to recommended stabilization equipment. All right, that's all for now. I hope you learned something new about stabilizing your camera, and make sure you subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss the next video, and I will see you then.